Welcome back to the deep dive. So, we're kicking things off today with a really interesting organizational paradox, one that I think defines a lot of modern strategy challenges. Can a team actually be too good, so efficient at what they do that they actually end up hurting their own strategic value inside the company? It sounds counterintuitive, right? But our sources today are really specific internal campaign slides, detailed memos from a large healthcare organization. They're right in the middle of a major care transformation initiative. And they are grappling with this exact problem inside their technology division, specifically Information Services, or IS. The whole initiative has this great name Revealing IS, Making Invisible Efforts Visible. And our mission for you today is to really unpack the strategy behind this. It's a huge effort to change how IS is seen, to shift them from, that necessary evil, the cost center, into being seen as a vital strategic partner, which they argue is absolutely essential for moving forward.
Yeah. And what's really striking here is how upfront they're being. This isn't just like an internal IT problem they're trying to fix. They're framing it as a significant business risk. They're openly saying, look, we've invested millions in technology. But if the rest of the organization doesn't get it, if they don't value the team running it, well, we're not going to get the full return on that investment. And
Yeah.
in healthcare, the stakes are incredibly high. We're talking organizational effectiveness and ultimately patient care.
Okay, so let's really dig into this core idea, this contradiction they call the problem. Their IS division is excellent. Their systems achieve this amazing baseline, like 99.7% uptime, which is incredible.
Heroic, really, given the
Well,
complexity.
but what's the result? Silence.
Right.
The tech just works seamlessly. So nobody outside IS even thinks about it. They don't notice.
Exactly. It's like, the electricity being on. You don't think about the power company until the lights go out. Data flows, systems run. So strategically, they're invisible.
Which means the only time IS gets high level attention, the only time they become visible.
Is during a crisis. That tiny fraction, less than 1% of the time when something actually goes wrong.
And that creates this totally skewed picture, doesn't it? This crisis narrative just takes over the conversation.
Completely. It overshadows months, maybe years of perfect performance.
And this isn't just about, people feeling unappreciated. The documents are really clear about this.
Absolutely. They spell out 4 specific, measurable business risks that stem directly from this invisibility problem. Okay, so the first one is talent risk. You've got these highly skilled people running incredibly complex, multi-million-dollar systems. If they feel their work is just unseen, or worse, only noticed when there's a fire drill, morale tanks.
And in today's IT market, that's a killer.
It's brutal out there. So yeah, it leads directly to retention problems. You lose good people, expensive people, all because of how they're perceived.
Right, which feeds straight into the second risk they identify, the perception issue. If leadership only hears about IS when there's an outage or a problem.
Then they default to seeing IS as an expense line, a cost center you have, but not, you know, a strategic asset, not a partner driving innovation.
But hang on, is that perception thing really that big a deal? I mean, couldn't they just, send out a few more emails? Isn't it just a marketing problem?
Well, that's the easy trap to fall into, and the sources argue strongly against that. It's deeper than just bad marketing. It's about a fundamental disconnect between operational reality, that 99.7% uptime, and strategic decisions, like budgeting. Which brings us to risk number 3, the alignment gap.
Okay.
If other department leaders, the ones who actually need new tech solutions like dashboards or system integrations, if they don't grasp what IS can actually do,
They don't involve them early enough.
exactly, they bring IS in at the last minute, like, here, build this, instead of collaborating from the start.
Gotcha. And that leads to,
The big one, the fourth risk, strategic risk. When IS doesn't have visibility, when they aren't seen as strategic, technology initiatives, the very ones needed for this big care transformation push, they get starved. They lack support, funding, buy-in.
so you're saying the organization could have this grand vision for transforming care.
But they unintentionally sabotage it by undermining the very technology infrastructure and partnership needed to make it happen. It's all linked. Bad perception, poor alignment, strategic failure. It's a chain reaction.
Wow. Okay, so the campaign docs don't just stop at process failures. They actually dive into the human psychology behind why this happens. And this is where it gets really fascinating, I think. It's about how we fundamentally perceive effort, or maybe the lack of visible effort.
Yeah, they break it down into 2 main psychological drivers. First, there's crisis visibility. Failures are dramatic. They're disruptive. They grab attention immediately, even if it's negative attention.
Right. The squeaky wheel gets the grease, even if 99 wheels are perfectly fine.
Exactly. And the second driver is what they call invisible efficiency. The very fact that things run smoothly, that 99.7% uptime, makes the immense work behind it seem, well, effortless, unseen.
It's like good infrastructure, isn't it? You only notice the road crew when there's a pothole or construction, not on the thousands of smooth journeys you take.
Precisely. And this connects directly to a known psychological barrier, something called the negativity bias. The slides actually pull out this specific data point. Human psychology needs roughly a 5-to-1 ratio of positive to negative experiences just to feel neutral or balanced about something.
5 to 1, that's a huge ratio.
It's massive. Think about what that means for an IS team in practice. One big visible outage part of that tiny less than 1% failure rate doesn't just cancel out a few good days. Because of this negativity bias, it can psychologically overshadow months of flawless performance in the minds of stakeholders.
So they're basically starting in a hole, perception-wise.
Constantly. They have to generate 5 times the positive visibility just to get back to zero in the eyes of leadership and the wider organization. It's an uphill battle against basic human psychology.
And that skewed perception, it's not just about morale. It hits the bottom line. It impacts strategy.
Oh, absolutely. The business impact is direct. That crisis narrative, it shapes budget talks. It influences which projects get prioritized. It fundamentally positions IS. They get stuck being framed as, the problem solvers for yesterday's issues or just the utility keepers instead of the strategic partners needed to enable tomorrow's goals and justify those big tech spends.
So the whole campaign is really about consciously fighting that ingrained bias.
That's the crux of it, counteracting that deep-seated psychological tendency.
Okay, so if the problem has these deep psychological roots, the solution needs to be pretty robust, and the campaign is crystal clear. The number one goal is mission alignment. It's about connecting every single thing IS does directly back to the core mission of the organization. In this case, healthcare. That means tying it explicitly to patient care outcomes.
Yes. No more tech jargon about servers and uptime percentages alone.
You have to talk about patient safety, patient experience, clinical efficiency.
Right. It's about shifting the narrative from keeping the lights on to enabling and safeguarding patient care. And the IS staff themselves need to know how to make that connection consistently.
And the source materials give some really concrete, vivid examples of how they're supposed to frame this. It's about moving from technical metrics to clinical value. So, for instance, instead of just saying EHR uptime is 99.9%, you talk about
clinicians having instant, reliable access to patient histories, allergies, medications,
yeah,
right when they need it to make safe decisions. That's the impact.
for network optimization. That's not just faster speeds.
No, it's the backbone that enables things like high-definition telemedicine. It's about bringing specialist care to a patient in a rural clinic who maybe can't travel. That's a direct care outcome.
That's powerful. And they also mention system integrations.
Yeah, the stuff that happens behind the scene. This is crucial. Good integration means nurses, clinicians spend less time fighting with technology, less time doing manual data entry.
And more time at the bedside, actually, with the patient.
Exactly. That directly impacts care quality and, frankly, clinician burnout, which is a huge issue.
And even cybersecurity, often seen as just a compliance chore.
They frame it as fundamental. It's essential for a pay, yes, but it's really about protecting sensitive patient data, maintaining that trust between the patient and the provider. It's safeguarding privacy and confidentiality.
So this intense focus on mission alignment, why is it so critical now, particularly in healthcare? What's the urgency?
Well, think about all the major strategic pushes in healthcare today.
Yeah.
Value-based care, population health management, even optimizing things like surgical scheduling.
They all have huge technology components.
Massive. And if IS is still seen as just the implementation team you call after the strategy is set, well, the initiative is already hobbled. The imperative here, what the campaign argues, is that IS must be at the table as a strategic partner from day one, informing the strategy, shaping it, not just getting handed the specs late in the game.
Okay, so we understand the problem, the psychology, the need for mission alignment. Let's talk solutions. How are they actually planning to do this? The campaign has 3 big goals, right? make the work visible, align everything to the mission, and strengthen IS's strategic position to tackle those four risks.
Correct. And they've got a pretty structured approach, what they call a four-pillar strategic framework to execute it.
Okay, pillar one.
Multiple touch points. They're explicitly rejecting the idea that, one big announcement or report will fix it. Instead, it's about systemic, regular communication. Things like success stories, targeted newsletters, briefings for leadership, and the big one, a flagship quarterly publication called the State of IS Report, which they're planning to launch Q4 2025.
A regular drumbeat of information. Okay, pillar two.
Targeted messaging. This shows some real sophistication, I think. They recognize you can't just blast the same message to everyone.
Right, different audiences care about different things.
Exactly. So clinical teams hear about the patient care impact, administrators see the efficiency gains or cost avoidance, and the executives. They get the metrics on strategic alignment, risk mitigation, ROI. It's tailored.
Smart. What's pillar three?
Sustainability. This is crucial. It can't just be a 6-month campaign that fades away. They're focusing on embedding these communication routines, creating templates, building it into standard operating procedures. The goal is to make this visibility permanent.
Make it part of the IS culture, not just a special project.
Precisely. And the fourth pillar is about building internal strategic partnerships. This means IS proactively aligning its goals and projects directly with the stated strategic priorities of key departments, ensuring you're always working on solving a high-level business problem, not just fixing a technical glitch.
Okay, that framework makes sense. But you mentioned accountability. This sounds like it's mostly an investment of time, communication effort, maybe not huge dollars. So what's the expected ROI? How are they measuring success?
They're very clear on that. They have specific, measurable outcomes they're tracking over 12 months, broken into 3 key KPI categories. This is how they'll demonstrate the strategic value.
Okay, what's the first category?
Performance indicators. This is basically the baseline, and it's already strong, remember. That 99.7% uptime, 85% user satisfaction. They're building on a foundation of existing excellence.
Right, they're not trying to fix bad performance, they're trying to fix bad perception of good performance.
Exactly. Which leads to the second category, and this is where the real shift is targeted. Engagement levels.
Okay, what are the targets here?
They're ambitious. They're aiming for 80% plus staff awareness across the organization about IS's value contribution. And, critically, they want a 20% increase in proactive departmental engagement with IS.
Proactive engagement,
Meaning departments reaching out to IS early in their planning stages. Calling IS not just when something breaks, but when they're thinking about a new service, a new building, a new strategic initiative. That shift from reactive to proactive proves alignment.
Gotcha. That's a key indicator. And the third KPI category?
Goal achievement. This really ties it back to organizational execution. Specifically, they're tracking the delivery of strategic technology projects.
And the target?
It's a high bar. 90% plus on-time delivery for these key strategic projects.
Wow, hitting that would demonstrate not just reliability, but that they were involved early enough to plan properly.
Exactly. It proved the whole system is working. The alignment, the partnership, the execution. So when you look at the value proposition, it's minimal direct cost, mainly communication time and effort, versus potentially mitigating those 4 huge business risks: talent, perception, alignment, strategy. It looks like a very high ROI initiative. It's about ensuring those massive technology investments finally deliver their full strategic potential through better partnership.
Okay, so wrapping this up, what does this all really boil down to? For this organization, and maybe for listeners thinking about their own situations, this whole revealing IS push, it seems like it lives or dies based on leadership buy-in.
Absolutely. The slides are explicit about that. They have 4 key asks for their executive leadership. 1, clear endorsement. 2, active engagement leaders actually need to read and react to things like that quarterly report.
Yeah, not just filed away.
3, inclusion, bringing IS into strategic conversations early. And 4, public acknowledgement. Leaders need to visibly recognize IS contributions.
And they actually call out that visible leadership sponsorship as the single biggest success factor.
Yep. Without it, that 5-to-1 negativity bias probably wins. Inertia wins.
So the vision they're painting, if this works over the next 12 months, is 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 consistently at the planning table, tech investments pay off better, maybe IT turnover goes down.
And they're hitting that 90% plus on-time delivery for strategic projects, proving their value. It's a clear picture of enhanced organizational effectiveness.
The big takeaway here seems to be that successful organizations, particularly complex ones like in healthcare, they just can't afford to treat IT like a basic utility anymore.
No, it has to be seen and function as a core strategic enabler. And this campaign is interesting because it focuses on communication and alignment as the lever, not just, buying more tech. It's a strategic investment in how the organization itself works together.
Smart.
And the sources really emphasize that success here is measured by transparency and accountability. It's about sharing the wins, yes, but also being open about the challenges. So maybe the final thought for you, the listener, is this. In your own organization, are there vital functions where success breeds invisibility, where excellence makes the work disappear and become vulnerable to that negativity bias? If so, forget a massive campaign for a moment. What's one immediate, low-cost communication tactic you could try, like today, to make one of those essential, quiet successes a bit more visible and connected to strategic goals? Think small, tactical visibility first.